welcome to the Hadassah Collective Podcast. I'm your host, Marrinan. The Hadassah Collective is a unique, wellness-centered community created in and inspired by India, the birthplace of holistic health disciplines. The Hadassah Collective Podcast brings together a carefully curated selection of my most trusted and inspiring innovators from every area of the health and wellness space. I invite my guests to freely share their gifts, their wisdom, their journeys, and their diverse points of view, discussing a vast range of topics including shutdown and self-isolation strategies, integrated diet and fitness, yogic science, modern mental health, and holistic lifestyle, all to inspire you with relatable tools to help you consciously customize, support, and expand your life. In this week's episode, I'm speaking with the founder and creator of the Conscious Wellbeing Company, Natalia. Natalia is a women's coach, a Shakti alchemy educator, a kriya pranayama meditation teacher, a holistic health and conscious lifestyle expert. And she specializes in helping women align to their inner goddess using ancient practices and Shakti wisdom for modern living. This episode is just full of amazing, divine, feminine power, and I hope you really enjoy this episode and get a lot out of it. Hi Natalia, welcome to the Hadassah Collective. It's so amazing to have you here. I'm so looking forward to this conversation all about juicy Shakti energy. So excited about it.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure.
Most welcome, most welcome. So let's get straight into it. And why don't you just give us a little picture of who you are, what you do, and also where in the world you are?
Okay, yes, absolutely. So I am in London, in the UK, and I am the founder and the creator of the Conscious Wellbeing Company. I am a conscious lifestyle expert, so I have products which are for conscious living, but I also am a Himalayan kriya meditation teacher and a Shakti alchemy coach.
Amazing, amazing. So interesting, so interesting. So how did you find yourself on this path? What drew you to Himalayan Kriya Yoga and diving into exploration of the Shakti energy?
Yes, well, I would say it started from a very young age with me. I was always keen on, well, first of all, I was reading from a very, very young age. So I just had this passion to just read and teach and really explore, delving into topics. And it slowly started kind of gaining an interest into self-transformation. Mm-hmm. And I think, when you're in your childhood, I always say that there's a real key into your habits, into your true soul nature. When you observe a child and you see what they're interested in and what they're doing, they're real good clues as to, what kind of piques their interest. And then what I often find is we head into our teenage years and we sort of then become a little bit more constrained with societal beliefs and pressures on how life needs to look, and we then start conforming. And I think for me, I headed in that direction, and then I think it got to about 11 years ago, personally, where I was in a relationship and it ended badly. And I think that for me was my rock bottom. And when as people call it, the dark night of the soul. So that's when I really wanted to delve in a lot deeper. And I would say since then, it's just been a journey of exploration. It actually began, I would say, with fitness and nutrition. So I started gaining a real key interest into, learning about the body and learning about myself and getting myself in good physical shape, but also mental. And then from there, I trained, I went further into nutrition, and I trained as a holistic health practitioner and a healing diets coach, which was wonderful. But I still felt, from there, it was like my yogic path started, I started delving into that. And I felt like that for me it was all sort of like the foundational steps. And it was when I went into the yogic path that then I started to to delve deeper into meditation and certain practices. And so where I am now, it's kind of finding an entire integrative practice into healing.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from my personal experience, that too often we kind of focus on one area, whereas for me, it's kind of tackling the different layers of the body. In Vedic terminology, it's the koshas, and really addressing our mental state, our nutrition, the foods that we're choosing to eat, and the energy that we have around us, and also just sort of like correcting the intellect, and then of course enlivening the body with prana. So many practices, but it's really there to kind of ensure that the healing takes place on a much deeper level. And then of course living in the Western world and really kind of noticing how lopsided we're sort of becoming energetically, I would say. And I would say that's where the, delving more into working with women and the enlivening of the Shakti energy really came into play.
Yeah, absolutely. So beautiful. And I love that you have that approach, you have that sort of physical background as well as the spiritual and emotional and energetic background, because I think that that's what we do, or in the wellness world especially, there's someone that specializes in one thing, but we really are spirit, soul, and body, and so it's all of those need to align, to be able to really be who we are and be who we're called to be as well. So, in your own personal life, what are some of the things that you feel that you've had to overcome to be where you are and to be able to coach people, and what practices have really impacted you and supported you along that journey?
So I think in terms of having to overcome many things, I would say the first thing would be societal pressure. I think being in the Western world, there's this, it's almost like our lives are already planned out for us. And when you sort of do something different or delve into something slightly different, when we delve into something different, we end up feeling, it can be quite lonely. So we can end up feeling alone because we're doing something, we're really tapping into our intuition, and we're really learning to flow with that. And you could have obviously a lot of opinions around you, and it often means doing things differently from friends and family, and stepping into that power. I think that already is stepping into your Shakti energy, because it's knowing that there's something beyond what we are exposed to, and trusting that there's a different, unique path for absolutely everyone, and it's not going to look the same for everyone. So we don't need to do everything on, society's timelines.
Yeah.
And so, when we start activating that, I always say that the universe really meets you halfway. It supports you, and it's from there, it's that brave step, and it's from there that we notice synchronicities and conversations and opportunities, and new doors start to open up. But it's really kind of started from taking that step. And then in terms of modalities, so of course, meditation and kriya practice and pranayama, it's magical. I think for me it began with the yogic asanas, and then from there expanding beyond that and delving into the actual Vedic wisdom and really learning to embody that and then bring that into our modern daily life, because it's so very applicable.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for those listeners that don't know what Himalayan Kriya Yoga is, can you just give us a brief overview of how that differs from regular asana yoga like Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, and how it's different and how it's performed?
Absolutely, yes. So Kriya yoga is about enlivening the prana within the system. It's delving actually a lot deeper. It can be quite meditative, but it also can be enlivening in such a way where it's bringing energy into different parts of the body. See, what happens is in our day-to-day living, we are shallow breathing, particularly if we're suffering with anxiety. So we don't actually know what it feels like to experience prana, enlivening energy within us. Yeah. And so Kriya is a wonderful tool to help shift the energy around the body. And when we start doing that, it starts with the spine, so at the base of the spine. And when we start working with that energy to lift it, we're using mantra, we're using breath, we're using mudra as well, which are the hand gestures. We really are raising that energy. And so that's when it goes into Kundalini, and we're working with Kundalini energy, where we're raising the energy up the spine, which is then in turn bringing balance through the energy centers, which are known as our chakra centers, our chakra systems. And then from there, we kind of have different experiences. So initially, it can be quite an emotional process because we're bringing energy to areas in the body where, trauma and our fears and things like that lay. And when we start doing that, we're actually eliminating all of this stuff. So we're energizing our energy centers, and through doing this, we are creating eventually a more conscious experience. So we are elevating our consciousness.
Yeah. Amazing. That's such a beautiful expression of what it is, such a beautiful description of what it is, because it's my personal practice as well. Again, I started with asana yoga and then moved more into meditation, like Vedic meditation. And then when I discovered Kundalini yoga or kriya yoga, I just found such a shift. It's such a powerful thing, first thing in the morning, to just move that energy through your body. It's such a cleansing experience. And you're right, it can really shift areas of trauma and stagnant emotion, stagnant energy through the body in the most efficient way. There are a lot of practices that can do that, but I think that it's such an efficient way, for me anyway. Everybody else's experience is different, but it's a really efficient way of moving through that energy through your body. So I think it's a really beautiful practice as well.
It's known as a way to elevate the consciousness a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So, they say that through Kriya, we are transcending our limiting beliefs and fears, but also we're able to burn away karma. Yeah. We're able to burn away our karma. So it's such a powerful practice. You're absolutely right. And I always kind of say it's like a fast track to God, to God consciousness, to the universe, to however you want to title it. But it really does get you there. I always say, I think when you begin, you're kind of getting rid of all the heaviness and all the heavy energy that's stuck. So it can be, as I said, emotional. But once we move through that, your experiences can become a lot more meditative, and you're accessing different points of consciousness which you're not able to access through just the asana yoga practices or meditation. It really just takes it up a notch and takes you to another level. So it's really quite an experience, I think. Once you've experienced it, you'll know, once you've tasted that bliss.
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep saying, I think I've said it on several podcasts actually, but I think, in our sort of health and wellness space, we always target a certain area that's like the it thing at that time. And, the cardiovascular system had its day, and the digestive system has really been the focus recently. And I really think that the nervous system is going to be the next focus, especially in these times that we're going through, where people are still shut down, still in lockdown, and doing everything via a screen and via their mobile devices and everything like that. I think this takes a huge toll on our nervous system. And so I think it's really important to have some practices in place that can sort of strengthen that and sort of realign that as well. But I also loved how you dip into the holistic eating side of things as well, because I think that also plays such a huge role in our ability to access different levels of consciousness as well, is that we have to have our physical body conditioned as well, and our energetic body as well, and our mental body to be able to sort of elevate and ascend. So I think it's such a great combo. So tell me now a little bit about Shakti energy. If you want to just give us a brief sort of history or overview of what Shakti energy is, and then we can go into how you assist and support women in channeling that energy.
Absolutely, yes. So Shakti energy is the divine force. It's the primordial energy that vibrates throughout the universe, essentially. So we refer to Earth as Mother Earth. It comes from the Mother, and we all are vibrating with this energy. Mm-hmm. And through so much disconnect, we've actually disconnected ourselves from that. But there's so much power within that energy. It's a beautiful, beautiful energy. And I think for me, it was because people have become so disconnected from it. We are experiencing so many things in today's world. You know, like our stresses and our anxieties and our worries, and you know, as I had mentioned before, becoming energetically so out of balance. But it's by really connecting with and tapping to that energy and enlivening it within our body. It's not something that we look at as something being external to us. We come from that energy. We've derived from that energy. This is the energy that nurtures us. This is the energy that grows, provides water and grows our fruits and vegetables, which we are eating from. This is what nourishes and sustains us. And by creating and bridging the gap between the you and I, which is a very separate energy, we are eventually, and again, through these practices, so not only through the meditative kriya practices and the mantras, but also through our nourishment and our eating, we are bringing that energy into us. And so when we're elevating our consciousness and when we're talking about Shakti, it becomes this thing initially of you and I. It's the separateness of, there's the universe and there's I. But eventually, as your consciousness begins to shift, that slowly starts to begin to move as well. So it slowly becomes from the universe, working for you, to then the universe flowing through you. And that's the entire growth process and elevation. And once we bridge the gap and we're bringing that energy, the Shakti energy, through us, we begin to notice, our consciousness changes, where we move to more of a blissful state, and we're able to show up in the world differently, not just for ourselves, but for everybody else. And life becomes more of a flow because we're functioning more in union to the universe around us, rather than, as I said, feeling like we need to manipulate the energy to manifest what we want. It's actually through rituals, through conscious rituals, through all of these practices, we can become that. And once we become that, our self-worth naturally raises, our self-value, and what we actually then become available for begins to shift. And I always say that's when the magic happens. That's when we found our true gem.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the Shakti energy is the feminine energy, is the divine feminine energy. Would that be correct in describing it in that sense?
It's the energy. It's the divine. It's honoring the divine feminine. But it exists throughout. So it's not exclusive to our physical bodies here. So it's not just something for the feminine. It's actually the male. The male comes from a woman. The masculine, a male body comes from a female, and that's Shakti energy. So inherently, the male is also, with the Shakti energy. So we all are a dual energy of the masculine and feminine. And so it's something that women would work towards. And of course, men need to also to honor that and to have that within themselves as well.
Yeah, I don't think that the divide of the energies, the masculine and feminine exists within all of us. It's not exclusive to gender. But I think what's interesting is that our world has been so focused on the more masculine energy, and our modern world especially has been really set up around, the male cycle, the male hormonal cycle even, in a sense that, they have a 24-hour cycle, and we obviously have a 28-day cycle, even in our physical. And, when their highest levels of testosterone is between 9 and 5. And I'm just like, well, that's so couldn't be more obvious, who that work day is geared towards. And I think it's really beautiful that we actually are stepping into balancing that out, because I think we've even witnessed in the world to shift out of that, extreme leaning towards the masculine energy. We have developed a brand of feminism that has somewhat lost its femininity, actually, and so I think it's really interesting that now we are kind of coming back into balance, and what that really means and how we can work together, because as you say, the divine masculine is dependent on the full expression of the divine feminine. So if we really are going to embrace both and elevate these energies in the earth, we need to embrace both of them. So I think that is a beautiful concept.
Absolutely, yes. And I always say, we're becoming more masculine in our fight to become feminine.
Yeah.
There's such a strong, there's this need, and it's because obviously over time things have changed and evolved, where women are obviously going more into education. Well, they have been for many years, and becoming more educated and more career-driven and career-focused, and that's a wonderful thing. But what's happening is the woman naturally already has so many other roles. From our ancient times, it was the homemaker, and it was the lady who was bearing the children. It's the pole structure of the family. The feminine is the mother, is the pole structure of the family. But then having to take on all these additional roles of having the career and really driving through all of that, it's within that the feminine energy and the feminine way of doing things, the feminine nurturing, and all the beautiful things that we naturally have the ability to do is being lost, because we are fighting for our voice. We're fighting to be seen. We're fighting to be heard. But within that, we are essentially mimicking the masculine, and that's actually not our role. The masculine has his beautiful strengths. Our masculine energy. That there's so much that lays within that, and so we don't need to lose our feminine in trying to fight and mimic that.
Yeah.
So
I think there's definitely been something in society that there's always an impression that as well that became very anti-men at some stage, and very I personally I'm quite happy being female. I don't want to be a man. That's but there is that sort of polarity there, that pull towards that if we want equality, then we need to become more like men. And I think that we've lost something there. And I think we are realizing this in the last sort of 10-15 years. We're realizing, hang on a second, that's actually not where our beauty, our power, and our strength and giftings lie. It's embracing that and being able to align with that, align our careers as well with the way that we work with the way that we function and the way that we flow, instead of trying to fit into the 9 to 5, so so that's very interesting. And so how do you guide people in this? How do you guide women in embracing their inner goddess? I love that line.
So many. So I work with. So I work with, as you mentioned, I work with women, but I've just introduced prenatal. So I'll begin with that. So with the prenatal stage, it's prenatal pranayama. So it's guiding women through gentle breathwork exercises and really bringing them back into that feminine, connecting with the feminine within, and connecting with the baby within as well. And, through meditation and mantra, and really just bringing them into that space before they go into the next chapter. So that's one little area.
Amazing.
And then the other area is through the coaching. So I coach women. It's the Shakti alchemy. And it's teaching women to, self-care and through understanding sort of like the mental state and nutrition and eating and all of these things. But then along with that, it's bringing in the practices. So I'm using all of the different tools and resources that I have, but I'm bringing it into one to really help create some big shifts. There may be things that women are working towards. It could be health conditions or just some sort of daily thing that they might be struggling with, or there's something that they want to improve. So that's my one-on-one coaching, where I work closely with them and guide them through that process. And then there are the classes where it's solely just an experience of the Kundalini kriya and meditation and pranayama. And so that's all the teaching aspect. That's one element.
Yeah.
And then the other aspect is the conscious lifestyle. So as mentioned before, I feel like going through this, it's an entire change. It's an entire shift. It's almost like we can't try to make change doing things in our old ways or within our old habits. It's really becoming more mindful of what we're watching, what we're eating, who we're speaking to, the energy that we surround ourselves with. So within the Conscious Wellbeing Company, there's also Conscious Lifestyles, which is based on energetic practices. So it would be the sage cleansing. I have sacred sage sticks, which are beautiful intention-setting pieces, and just to be more aware and mindful of the energy around you. And then there are the sacred jewels, which have been handcrafted in Rishikesh in India. They have all been set with intention. They're all made so mindfully with kind of conscious stones and natural minerals and natural metals to really amplify and support the process of healing, to support someone on their conscious evolutionary journey, to support someone in their yogic lifestyle. So it's a range of beads and malas made from different stones. And our key pieces, one of the key pieces are the Sri Yantra pendant malas, which are Sri Yantra is the sacred, the purest, oldest geometric symbol from ancient Vedic times. And it's really honoring the divine feminine energy through which abundance flows, through enabling a female and a male as well, but to live in their highest, fullest expression, in their highest potential. So these pieces have all been blessed in the beautiful river Ganga, and I have them in the UK. So when I was in India, I had some beautiful experiences with these pieces. Energetically, they are very, very highly charged.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to, bring these back to the UK and get them in the hands of good women who are really, as a supportive tool, but who are really wanting to consciously grow. So, as I said, there's two areas under the umbrella of the Conscious Wellbeing Company, and one being the conscious living, and then the other is me providing services as well, actually as Shakti workshops. So at the moment we're working through Goddess series, and it's really educating women and providing women through experiences, through kriya and mantra and meditation, of actually understanding the Vedic goddesses and the energy that each of them have and bring with them.
Yeah.
So then we can start to bring that into our daily lifestyles and invoke that within us. Because again, that's really invoking the Shakti energy, and that's where we experience our bliss, and that's where I always say that's where true manifestation happens, because the natural law begins to self-organize itself around you once you start shifting your aura through mantra. We're really making some big, deep shifts, and things start to self-organize.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting perspective on manifestation as well, because as much as I respect a lot of sort of manifestation practices and affirmations and things like that, a lot of that has never really resonated with me, because I've always sort of wanted the shift to be internal for me, and then let whatever is meant to come to me, so rather than deciding, because I've been through so many experiences where I'm like, this is what I want, this is what I'm going for, and just going and taking it and getting it and whatever. Very masculine energy there, but and you get it, you work so hard to get it, and then you're like, oh, this isn't making me happy, this isn't what I wanted at all. So I kind of realized that I don't want to make those decisions. I want to make the decisions on the daily basis to elevate my consciousness, to align with my authentic nature, and then see what the universe has for me, right? And I love that.
Exactly. Exactly. I feel exactly the same. I always struggled with this whole westernized pressure of having to manifest, and it just became like a game we're all playing here, and it almost felt very inauthentic and actually quite manipulative. I feel like energetically it's not coming from a great place, and exactly as you said, it's coming, that in itself is a fine example of heavy masculine energy, of this need of wanting to do and push and to get this. And it never sat well with me, and I've just found it so inauthentic, where as we naturally begin to raise our vibration, our deserving power begins to also raise within that.
Yeah.
And what needs to come to you and through you will naturally arise. And of course, we can set our goals, and there may be things that we may say, actually, this would be wonderful if we could. So it's not like we're becoming aimless, or because that's one of the questions that I get asked a lot. Yeah, we're still moving with focus, but we're actually surrendering, and we're allowing and enabling greater things to come to us, because essentially, again, our ego mind is very restrictive. So what we think is for our highest good, or if you think that Rolls Royce is going to actually make you feel a lot better, maybe there's something else that's going to be a lot better for you. And I feel like because of that, society is becoming a lot more like depleted, and because what's happening is we're not shifting internally, and everything is kind of becoming very physical, and it's very outward focused. And going back to kriya has the potential to, it's so powerful, kriya. I can't speak about it enough, but it has a potential to actually delve deeper into your biocellular memory. So we're actually shifting out a lot of the limiting beliefs and things that society has placed on us, or even from generational pressures and old ways of thinking that have been embedded in our DNA.
Yeah.
We're beginning to shift that. We're burning all of that away through kriya. So I know which one I prefer.
Yeah.
I definitely, it's the Eastern way for me.
Yeah, totally. And it's also interesting, because then people think, oh, but you don't have goals. And it's actually not about that. It's about, actually it's a very feminine energy, a divine feminine energy to really delve deep into what you truly desire, and I think it's going past that superficial layer of I should desire this and that's what I'm going to aim for and push for and take, really, I think is the energy behind that. But it's really digging deeper and seeing what your true desires, and that really is being in the feminine flow of being able to just go with your desires as well. So yeah, I think that's an interesting concept, and I think that there's a definite shift there as well. And it's also a not measuring people from the external, because, okay, for me, I couldn't care less if I had a Rolls Royce. For somebody else, that could be a spiritual experience. You know what I mean? And, maybe for some people, they think it's, superficial or ridiculous what I put in my smoothie every morning, but, and that, or over the top or what have you. So I think it is having that ability to really tune into the things that really light you up and that are aligned with you personally, rather than what society is saying should be. This is what you should look like,
Well, there's this fine line with abundance, and actually, I'll speak to this because this was actually one of the struggles that I experienced along my journey, where it was kind of like living in the Western world, and I've got a very fine eye for good quality things and arts and things like that, but it's kind of deemed, it can be deemed as unspiritual to have certain things and to spoil yourself and to really, to do all of these things.
I don't resonate with this, by the way.
I was stuck in that limbo where I was like, am I supposed to, as a spiritual being, as a conscious leader, am I supposed to just wear white and sit in a cave? Does that deem me to be, is that authentic and is that spiritual? And then, there's this other thing where and I really had to work with this, and I'm in a place now, obviously, where I've understood, when you understand nature, you realize nature teaches us abundance.
Yeah.
When you understand the laws, and when you look at the Vedic goddesses going back, and we speak about Lakshmi encourages and teaches us abundance. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having, and as your vibration shifts, your magnetism naturally increases. And as your magnetism increases, things that you may desire, or things that you want, or favorable circumstances and things naturally flow to you. Mm-hmm. But I think it's the very fine line, and the key thing to remember is you can have absolutely anything you want in this world, but it's the intention behind it. It's not, as long as it's not coming from a place of greed or to fulfill an egoic need or even an attachment. It's like, I can love all the things I have, but I'm certainly not attached to them. It's just, I like to wear good shoes, but I have no, if they're not there tomorrow, absolutely no problem. I just like them. So I think that's what it is. It's kind of becoming not getting too attached, but not feeling guilty for it either, because I think with the spiritual community, it can be like, oh God, no, we mustn't have too much of this or abundance, things like that. And it's like, no, in fact, it's the opposite. Understand the goddesses, and you understand that this is the world we're living in. This is what we're being taught, and nature is teaching us that. There's always more. That you pick an apple off the tree and a new apple will grow. Like, it's just, this is abundant. This is an abundant universe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it's to do with the actual external physical thing ever. It's the as I said, the Rolls Royce could mean something completely different to another person, and it's about the, like you said, the attachment to the physical thing, and because at the end of the day, the physical thing is just a neutral object, really, and so it's really the energy that we're giving it. And I think when you say that in the spiritual community, it again comes back to that judgment of the external, like judging your inner world based on your external, which actually, when I say it out loud, makes no sense at all. But even that sort of austerity lifestyle is also sort of proving in an external way, oh, look how spiritual I am because I, live an austere lifestyle. So I think it's an interesting concept. It's definitely something that I don't buy into, because I think as much as the lessons that we're here to learn, and the deeper, darker, more uncomfortable things we're here to experience, we're also here to experience so much joy, abundance, and the beautiful things that this world has to offer. So I think when you deny yourself of either one of those experiences, then you're not having a full human experience. So and so I think that's my perspective on it.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you, do you have a favorite goddess? Mine is Saraswati, I have to say. I really resonate with her.
That's so funny you mentioned that, because I'm actually I've got a Saraswati workshop. I've been working with Saraswati a lot recently.
Wow.
So through a lot of puja rituals, so conscious rituals with Saraswati, and also through mantra and kriya. So with the goddesses, I mean, essentially it's one goddess, but it's whatever you need at different stages of your life is what will show up more for you at that time. So I'm always willing to just flow. Today it could be Saraswati, tomorrow it might be Lakshmi, but it's whatever I'm needing to help me. And sometimes there may be days where I'm just needing that strength, and I think that's the beauty when we understand the energy and what these goddesses, invoking these goddesses within, what energy and drive and push and Shakti that is giving us. We can then just kind of flow and alchemize, daily. It's just flowing with it and knowing that it's all there, it's all within. But some days we may need more softness, and some days we may need a bit more fire and some Kali energy. And it's really having that knowledge, and that's what with the workshops, it's definitely something I work with. It's kind of understanding the goddesses on that level. So and then through the kriya, we're bringing them into, we're able to experience it, because again, it's not like a you and I thing where it's separate. It's actually invoking that energy within you and learning to raise that fire, or to raise and open the heart up a little bit, to experience your abundance and things.
Fabulous, fabulous. So apart from the divine goddesses, who have been some major influences or sources of inspiration or mentors in your life? And that can either be public figures or personal people in your life.
Wow. It's a funny one, because I've always, from a younger age, I've always been very drawn to very strong female leaders and women of power. And I never really understood why. It's only now kind of understanding and working with my inner Shakti energy and the Kundalini energy that I'm recognizing that these are traits, these kind of strong traits, these nurturing traits of people that I was always so drawn to and fascinated by. They vary. They would literally be.
Would they be?
Audrey Hepburn.
Do you think that is? Do you think that those energies, though, you were so drawn to that because those existed within yourself, and they were, as when you were younger, it was like a calling to draw on those energies yourself?
Absolutely, exactly that. It's funny how we can see when we look back, and we, with this kind of more of an open, your vision expands so much more. Like you're able to look back and sort of see, wow, I recognize that, and I really can see why, and it's exactly that. So it would be the Grace Kelly, and it will be Sophia Loren, and it would be Jackie Kennedy sometimes. And it was just like what they stood for, what they represented, but yet the fact that it was done with so much grace and so much feminine energy.
Yeah.
It was that.
Yeah,
Because
right.
feminine energy it's not a soft, it's not a weak energy. It's in fact, it's actually knowing how to go out and be in the world and make an impact and help and support others and inspire others, but doing it with a different energy, with that loving energy, with that nurturing energy, tapping into intuition. It's like, as the divine feminine, these are our superpowers. And the more we kind of delve and jump more into our masculine energy, we're disconnecting from our intuition and all these beautiful qualities. But when you're strong and your core is strong and you understand this, you are able to use those abilities to your advantage and for the greater good of others, and you can really go out and make some big changes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And are there any resources that you could recommend that you think would be useful for our listeners? Any books or podcasts or YouTube channels or anything like that?
Oh, my goodness. So, I mean, being a reader myself, a very strong reader, as I'd mentioned, my go-to would always be books. This book was gifted to me on my spiritual journey about 11 or 12 years ago. And I would say that book fell into my hands by no mistake whatsoever. But that really is what got me thinking and seeing the universe differently. And it was a book by Wayne Dyer. And the title is "There is a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem."
Yeah. Wow.
And that was power. I mean, it's still on my bookshelf, but that for me was, a real game changer, as they say. And I think from there I started delving more into the spiritual world and understanding the universe. But I delved more into the Western elements.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
a lot of the Gabby Bernstein and Marie Forleo and so many others I used to listen to, but it then started going beyond that when I entered into more of my yogic journey, and then it was almost like the Western wasn't giving me enough. The Western views weren't giving me enough substance. It was all still very kind of like it's a different approach. It's a different style altogether. But it was almost then when I went more into the yogic approach, which is ancient. But then it was almost like that just throws you in so much deeper. So
definitely.
I would say I then went to, as I started shifting more in the yogic, of course, the autobiography of the yogi, which, I still say it's a reference book today. I can pick that up and flick at any page and it's there.
Absolutely.
So there's so much wisdom. And then there's by the guru that I actually studied with in India, Anand Mehrotra. He has a book called This and That, which again, it's almost like a breakdown of all of the yogic scriptures, but giving a really beautiful explanation in English, because that's what we want to really understand. And then from that, how to use that and apply that within our daily lives. But these are these are books of real substance. These are real kind of like, when you look into the ancient scriptures, we're really kind of understanding where the principles of the law of attraction and all of these things originated from. It's actually from there. But
Absolutely.
It's been westernized so much now.
I know, my sister-in-law used to say all the time, when The Secret was like a big deal.
Oh God.
She was like, why is it called The Secret? All of these things are in the Bible. Like, what are they saying? So I always thought that was hilarious and true. They are all from these ancient scriptures. And I do think that there is a place for, like, I love Gabby Bernstein. I think she's fab. But I absolutely know what you mean, that you get to a certain point in your own evolution that you actually want to figure it out yourself. You don't want somebody else's version of, their interpretation, their impartation. And so Yeah, I definitely get that, and I've come to that place myself. And Anand Malhotra also is very interesting. He's very poetic in the way that he writes and the way that he speaks. So I think that's interesting because he's quite a modern day guru, in terms of India, in terms of the Indian lineages as well. But yeah, I think so. So thank you for those recommendations. That's amazing. And so tell me, where can my listeners find you? Where can they find you on Instagram? Do you have a website? And please tell me some of the offerings that you have at the moment, your workshops, your one-on-one coaching, and how people can find out more information on that.
Absolutely, yes. So I am on Instagram, social media, as the Conscious Wellbeing Company. And my website, which actually has all of the offerings, and of course it's got the e-shop where you can view the conscious lifestyle products as well, is the www.theconsciouswellbeingcompany.com. And I also have on there some well-being ebooks, which I have written. There are some free downloads there. So there's a range there. I love sharing. I love sharing my knowledge and my wisdom. And if it's going to help someone, then by all means, download and take away. And so, yes, so in terms of the conscious lifestyle, at the moment we have the beautiful Sacred Sage pieces. They come in a range of sizes, and they have been made with different herbs for different intentions. We have the Shiva Shakti piece, which is a combination of herbs to really work with both the divine feminine and the divine masculine energy. So it's a beautiful balancing one. And then, of course, I have the Shakti sticks, which are really beautiful for the divine feminine. And they also come with, there's some intention sets which actually come with the miniature Vedic deities. So they're all set with intentions, but it depends on what you're wanting to call forward into your life. You can sort of pick and choose with those. And then on the Sacred Jewels, the Sattva Collection collaboration with Conscious Wellbeing Company. So we have a range of jewels from the Sri Yantras. We also have the 3-metal ring, which is mentioned in Autobiography of a Yogi in the Bengal form. And in terms of what I have at the moment, so I am working with prenatal pranayama. So that's available there as a session to book as a class. That's one-on-one. I also am launching the Goddess series of workshops. So there's a range of workshops which are live and led by myself. And they are really kind of delving into the wisdom, delving into some mantra chanting together, kriya, pranayama, and meditation dedicated to each of the goddesses. There's also the Kundalini kriya practices, so they're classes which are done one-on-one, which target specific areas that you may want to work on. It could be anxiety or just stabilizing the nervous system a little bit more. And then finally, there is the one-on-one coaching where we delve in, and as mentioned, it's really going in and taking a look at your nutrition and having a look at what's going on in the nervous system, and through mantra, through kriya, through all of these practices, conscious rituals, completely tailored and personalized to what I feel you need. But it's just the one-on-one support and working with you to create those big shifts and big changes. And that is the Shakti Alchemy coaching course.
Beautiful.
So there's plenty of options.
Wonderful. And before I let you go, is there one practice, one short practice that our listeners could implement today to align more with their Shakti energy?
So I would say in some form of ritual. I think I'm a real big believer of conscious rituals. I do those myself. It's a daily practice where I take some time out at an altar. It's a sacred space. It's charged with high vibrations. And I always say with your altar, you place there whatever you feel called to place. It could be, some little deities, some murtis, or some photos, or even some crystals. And it's just your space where you can go and, think about your intentions and set your intentions. And that in itself, when you're lighting a candle, when you're lighting some incense, you're really surrendering to the grace. You're allowing and opening yourself up for grace to flow through you. And that's just your time where there's no ego, and you leave all your worries and your problems, and you just take that time. And making that a part of your ritual really sets you up beautifully for the rest of your day, because you're moving forward with intention rather than scrolling on Instagram for half an hour in the morning. That time could be spent at the altar just with your thoughts, and that will really help to just bring a little bit of balance within and connect you to your intuition. It helps you to be more responsive in the day rather than reactive.
Yeah.
And just tapping into that beautiful, beautiful feminine energy.
Amazing, so lovely. And is there anything that you have on your heart to share that I haven't asked you about?
I think if I was to share something with your listeners, it's what I find is we give our power away too much to external things. We've become quite an outward-focused society where we end up looking for validation and self-worth from others, from our titles, from our roles. And when we spend some time turning our gaze inwards, you'll actually be really surprised at what gems are actually existing within you. It's all within you, and that's where your self-love and your self-worth and your self-value will come from, not the external.
Absolutely.
So take some time to look inwards.
Absolutely. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Natalia, for joining me. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Thank you. You too. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and you got some things to take away from our amazing guests' insight. If you did enjoy this episode, please subscribe and also leave us a review. And for more information on the Hadassah Collective, you can visit our Instagram page at Hadassah Collective. I hope you'll join me again for our next episode at the same time next week. And until then, have a wonderful week.